Hey everybody, I'm Bob Baker with Jazz Guitar today, and I'm being joined by Henry Johnson with Henry Johnson. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. I'm so delirious with everything that's going on. But anyway,
Yeah, well, first of all, how are you doing, man?
oh man, it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, some days it's great. Some days I'm tired. Some days, it's just all over the place. It's only been
Hmm.
7 months, and I'm still on a lot of meds and stuff like that. But I'm playing pickleball. I'm taking a lot of long walks.
Hmm.
I'm going to the gym. I'm getting out. I'm doing stuff. Did some auditioning for the acting career. So I'm fine. I appreciate the support. Um, I was starting to mention Wayne Goines, and I heard somebody pronounce it Goins, and I believe it's Goins.
It's going, yeah.
Yeah, he used to actually he wrote a bunch of articles for us, which we were very appreciative of, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
he's a great guy. But anyway, he was talking to Peter Hendrickson at the
Uh-huh.
Rocky Mountain Archtop Festival, and Peter and I talked quite a bit. One of the sponsors, and great guy. And he said, "Have you ever done anything with Henry Johnson?" He said, "It's funny." He said, I tried to contact Henry about 2 or 3 years ago, and for some reason it just never connected." I said, "But I love his playing. I'm really well aware of of who he is and what he does and all that kind of stuff. But that's a really great idea. I need to get a hold of Henry." So that was what, a month ago or so we connect
Yeah.
set this up. So how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm doing whatever I want to do and whenever I want to do it, so I can't complain.
You're in an envious position.
Yeah,
So,
I do realize that. I'm grateful for that.
um, I wanted to ask you a few things. What are you doing these days?
Well, I'm playing a lot of gigs around here with my band. I also play with a group that we put together that is three different band leaders. So to see what all of these band leaders can bring to the table and how the creative forces between us, because I also sing too. So we have a singer who's been a band leader for, like 35, 40 years. And then a pianist who's been in everything. She does everything. She does shows. She's done Hamilton. She does all that. But she's a jazz piano player too.
You've done Hamilton.
And so all of us together come together. So we have a group that's called Better Together.
Very cool.
And so we do a lot of gigs around here and stuff like that. And then I start doing, like when Ramsey passed, the torch got passed to me to be the, like the keeper of all his music and make sure it stays alive. So that's a group called Urban Knights, but we kind of like go back and forth between Urban Knights and Ramsey Lewis Legacy Band. So we're gearing up to start doing some dates and stuff like that, doing some his music and stuff that we did with him.
Sure. Who's who's
So
who's playing the
that's keeping me pretty busy.
who's playing the piano chair in that group?
We, well, it was before we had just our keyboard player who was with Ramsey for 13 years as well.
Okay.
So he started playing Ramsey's parts, and then we hired another keyboard player. But it's, we knew that that's not a permanent situation.
Right.
So we found a guy who is, who we just got to fill the chair, and he's like fantastic. He's another musician here, but he's not local. He lives here, but he's not local. He's nationwide. He's like one of these weird, quirky guys because he does all of these different things. He's run marathons. He's run all over the world. It's just like plus he just a like fantastic piano player as well. So his name is Richard D. Johnson, and he's going to be filling in the chair for Ramsey.
Oh,
So
that's
he's familiar with all the Ramsey's music and stuff like
that's
that.
really
So it's a lot of fun. But it's something that, like I need to do to keep that music alive because without us, we're the only ones that Ramsey, like even told that, like, hey, you guys, y'all got to do it.
yeah.
and we were with him for all that time. So I'm been in his. I was in his band the longest. So
So you're the guy.
so that's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And then I still teach. I teach at Roosevelt University here in Chicago. And then I'm starting to actually try to go into my archives because I have probably recorded almost every gig that I ever did.
Oh,
So I
wow.
got gigs going back to when I was started playing guitar with Jack McDuff. So we're talking about like 1976 and even actually before that, you know. And just trying to get some of that, all of that stuff that's been archived to get it digitized. That's the
Mm.
big thing because I got it on all of the formats. I have it on cassette.
I was gonna say
I,
cassette.
oh yeah, I have it on cassette. Then from cassette, we went to mini disc. Now I have it on mini disc. And then we went from mini disc to the little Zoom recorders, which is on like that little HD cards.
Right.
Now we got that on there. So it's like if the HD cards is good, then because it's digitized already.
Yeah.
But it's just the stuff before that. The mini disc, there was no software that I could use to digitize it. So in order to digitize it, you got to play the whole thing, you know, and you have to record it onto the. So it's time consuming, man. So
I
that's
can
what.
only say this. I've recorded a whole lot of YouTube performances, excuse me, jam session performances that I've done over 10 years. And,
No.
and I've kept all of them. You know, you go in, do three or four songs, and then you're done. You go home. And
Hmm.
then I've got some concert stuff that I did, never at your level, you know, but um, and I've got all this video, and I've just never,
You're trying to figure out what to do with it now, right?
I you know, and it really it breaks my heart, you know, because it's, you know, it's you know, it's my life, you know, it's like, you know, like what you're doing, you know, so I
Well,
understand.
you know what, Bob, though, as I've gotten, gone through life, everybody has a story,
Oh
and
yeah,
everybody's story is just as important as anybody else's story, even though it may not be internationally known.
yeah,
But that story is still unique in itself and is
absolutely.
just as important. So if you have documentation of it, because most of the stories are not documented like that.
That is for sure. Um, so let's talk about I want to talk a couple things. One is you know, you as a teacher, but also before we go there, let's talk about you as a player.
Hmm.
I mean, you've got a resume as long as your arm with, you know, some of the great names of jazz. And I mean, I could be reading off some of these. I've got a whole bunch of stuff over here on the left, you know, Freddie, Hubbard, Ramsey, Lewis, Norman Simmons, Jimmy Smith, Johnny Stitt, Stanley Turrentine, Joe Williams, Nancy Wilson. You know, you've been there.
Yeah.
Been on, you know, you've been on a stage. You've got seven, it looks like seven projects of your own, and obviously you've been with Ramsey. You know, you've recorded a whole bunch. There's a whole lot of you going on. Um, you've got a really an interesting style from my perspective. You kind of like everybody, but you're yourself. I mean, you know, you got some Wes in you, you got some George in you, you know, you got some Kenny in you, you got some of this and that, but 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 you're not any of those people. You know, you're definitely your own thing, and some of your thoughts and your lines are just, you know, I think in one of your lessons you've got a thing called it's not scales, it's phrasing or something of that.
Hmm.
And it's so
Yeah, that one creeped me out because it freaked me out because when TrueFire put it out there online,
yeah.
it got 800,000 views. And so they called me up and they says, "Hey man, you just went like, like viral." And I said, "What's viral? I don't know what that means." He said, like, all of these people have viewed that particular lesson. I said, "Well, that's kind of creepy because I don't think there's 800,000, like people know that like jazz,
Well,
So it was kind of interesting, but I said, well, I'm glad that it actually rung a bell with some of these people.
well, I think that, the problem that jazz has in general is that up until the last 5 or 6 years, or nobody's really explained it to anybody, that coming from, like, your pentatonic blues player to the next level. And it's always been this kind of mystery, I think, to a whole lot of people. And I, and so back about 10 years ago, there was about 150,000 people worldwide that considered themselves to be jazz guitarists.
Hmm.
And it was probably 150 million people that considered themselves to be blues players or rock players.
Right. Well, you can look at
And
that number.
or R&B players or funk players, or
Hmm.
whatever you want to say. Um, and I think that the like some of my friends that were dyed-in-the-wool rock players, they just didn't want to try to even approach it, because all it is scales, and people would say modes and all. I mean, the drill. And
Right.
and so well, they would somebody would play something, and then they'd play their scale over it, and it would sound like scale.
That sounds like the ABCs.
Yeah, it didn't sound like music.
No.
This ain't cool. This is, and then you go to a jam session, and you can tell the guys that have studied, they're studying now, because they're all playing, I mean, the drill, the scales. And so when you come up with a title that says, okay, it's not all about scales, it's about phrasing. It's like, well, phrasing, to most people, they're thinking, musicians anyway, they're thinking this is music, this is melodic, this is something I can actually use. And
Hmm.
so it doesn't surprise me that it's a popular title.
Yeah. I, s- I, I think when you play and you listen to so many different music, and when I came up, we didn't have one station that played one thing. Our radio station, they all played the same thing. They played every kind of music on one station. So
Yeah,
you got a chance to hear the Beatles, and then next to that you might have heard Ramsey Lewis, and next to that you might have heard Cannonball Alley. Then you heard, like, Johnny Be Good, or something like that. It's because it was just music. And
right,
when people get exposed to just music, they get to pick and choose what they like. They
right,
don't know what it's called. They just know, like, oh, I like that song, or I like that artist, or I like that.
right,
And that's how I think music should be. It shouldn't be categorized by, like, and thrown in a group,
right.
because that group's connotation can actually take away from somebody even checking it out. It's just like you saying, like, rock players to think that, oh, I mean, I don't want to be messing around with these scales and nothing like that. The reason why is because they like the feel of rock. They
Yeah.
like how it grooves. They like the pocket of it.
But
So why would you get away from that?
well, that's really funny. You say feel and groove. So I defy anybody to listen to that live version you have of the Flintstones. And once you decide to cook on it, once you guys decide to cook on it, after, what I'm saying, after you've done the intros, and all of a sudden it just freaking takes off. I mean, I haven't heard anything that's more cooking than that, man. I mean, you guys are playing incredible. And your drummer, man, I don't know everybody. I don't even pretend to, but you and your drummer are so locked in. You're playing a phrase, and he's, he's playing the phrase, like he's echoing you, it's a call. And I'm going, I haven't ever heard it quite that evident before. But man, you're kicking ass. And the thing is that your time and your execution of all these thoughts that you have, I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, and
Oh,
the
thank you,
tones,
man.
the it's if people like Kenny, people like Wes, and people like George, and all that, if they like that, obviously they're going to like you. I mean, it's. But I will say this: I'm gonna bitch at you a little bit. You need to publish more of your performance videos on YouTube. so people can.
Yeah, when yeah, that my YouTube channel is like, it's only got some stuff that somebody else,
It's
videos of somebody
TrueFire.
else. Yeah, yeah.
It's
Um,
all your TrueFire stuff. So that's a good segue for us here. I mean, you are between you and Frank Vignola. I think you two guys like are the kings of TrueFire. I mean, you either he's the CEO and you're the president, or you're the king and he's the whatever. I mean, you two guys like are just all over that thing, and you've got you got a ton of lessons on TrueFire, and
yeah.
tell me about that, and how you got going on that and what you do and blah 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 blah.
Well, the owner of True Fry, Brad Went.
Yeah,
I had been knowing Brad because I used to see him we met at NAMM show, so I used to see him all of the time. And
yeah,
TrueFire was just starting up, so he had, he said, "Man, I got this idea. I think that we, like all guitar players, we can use the internet to connect all of the guys up because they all want to learn the same thing."
yeah.
And so that was his idea. So you look at some of the early TrueFire stuff of when he was just starting the channel, they kept going with the idea because they start seeing that it's true. That's what guys wanted to do. They wanted to be connected. Then you have a lot of guys who are not, um, they're not traveling musicians, but they work locally all of the time.
Right.
And just because you're not traveling don't mean that you're not a great player. You
Hey,
just
a lot of
you're a
guys.
great player in your area.
I mean, the amount of people that have told me that I play for free, you pay me to travel. You I mean, that I've heard that from so many people that they love the audiences and they love to play, but the traveling is hell.
Yeah, it's even worse now. It's just like I don't travel as much as I used to at all because
Yeah.
like the way traveling is now, it's really like a pain in the butt.
Joni
Because
Mitchell.
you can't depend on the airlines anymore. Back in the day, they had red-eye flights out. We could depend on the airlines to get us where we needed to
Right.
go. You can't depend on that now
Yeah.
because the airlines they're not being managed as like stringently as they used to be. And time used to be a big factor with them, but it doesn't seem to be because like you'll get a delay at the slightest, indication of anything, you'll get a delay. And people are sitting at airports and stuff. And a lot of times, if you don't go a day before your job, you're gonna miss the job. We
Yeah.
used to go the day of the job and get there, like and still have like 9 hours before it was time for us to play. Yeah, so I would never risk that again. You
Yeah.
know. But anyway, how when we were at an AM show and I met Brad and we would be talking about this all of the time. So finally, years later, TrueFire was just taking off because he started getting more and more artists to do things and do projects for them and stuff like that. And I think you might know Mark Stephanie.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Mark Stephanie was the first one to start telling me about Brad because he did a project for TrueFire as well, but he wasn't doing the playing. They got somebody. He had all of the work played out, and
Right.
so they got somebody else to do the playing on there to play what he had like laid out.
Yeah. He's very
But his
prolific.
yeah, oh God, he's seriously
Yeah. He's very.
prolific.
He did some stuff for us in the very early going, and I mean, he's just really, really prolific, and so yeah. But
Well, I used to get on his case. I said, look, man, because we would talk and we'd play, and he's a really wonderful player.
yeah,
So I used to get on his case. I said, look, man, you need to, like you play just as good as the people who, the person who played on your video for TrueFire. So you need to start doing, more playing. So we've been back and forth, and then I taught him about GarageBand because it was sitting on his computer. He never even opened it up. So I got him to start using the GarageBand and recording himself. And like he's turned out to be like, like a fantastic player. But nobody knows it because he's loves teaching.
yeah. He's he knows what he wants to do, and that's what he does.
Yeah, exactly. And when
That's
you find somebody that's comfortable and that's who they are and they're comfortable within themselves, then they don't need anything else. They got what they need.
he's I caught his, I I got that vibe from him right away, and he's extremely intelligent, um, and he picks the right stuff, and it's if you're spending time with him, you're getting some lessons. You're learning
Yeah.
you're
He's
learning
a
some
good
stuff.
teacher. He's
Yeah,
a really
very
good teacher because he
very.
can focus on things. He'll look at you, look at your plan, and he'll say, "Oh, okay, this is what you need," and he'll focus and create a lesson on just that to help you get better.
Yeah, I hated that he he. I need to call him again and say, hey man, why don't you send us some stuff. But that's a whole other story. So you
Yeah, well, anyway, getting back to Brad.
Yeah,
So anyway, after about 10 years of me and Brad going back and forth, we would keep meeting at NAM shows. And then TrueFire put a celebration of Kenny Burrell together. So
right.
Brad asked me to play. So it was me, Mimi Fox, and quite a few other guitar players, and David Becker.
Right.
So we all played, like in a celebration for Kenny Burrell. It was one of his birthdays, and maybe
The Heritage
uh,
Guitar Collection.
right. And
You and
so
Mimi and David are all heritage people, and so is Kenny.
r-
Or so was
right,
Kenny.
exactly, yeah. So that's how like we actually hooked up there, and we just stayed. He would call me every 6 months and say, "Hey man, you ready to do that video? You ready to do that video?"
He's a
And
great
so
guy.
finally he called me, and I said, "You know what? Let's do it," because I was staying, like abreast of what they were doing over at TrueFire. And then I
Yeah,
looked at their page one day and it was 300-400 people on there. I said, like, oh my God,
a lot.
it was huge.
If you got a style, he's
Yeah,
a player for you. You know.
exactly. So
And
that's how we ended up doing it. And I just said, okay, well, let's go ahead and do it. So I flew down there to the studios and we started, like working together then.
that's
And it's really time for me to do some other stuff, but I don't know what's going to happen with all these storms and things that have messed up stuff down there.
I don't know. But what
So
I was gonna encourage you to, when you go out and do your gigs, your gigs around Chicago and all that, put the camera up.
I got I got camera footage.
Yeah. Well then,
I'm like you. I got like archives of
do me
stuff,
a
man.
favor and send us some stuff to put along with this, stuff that nobody's seen, to put along with this video.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to I'll
If
have
you
to
can
go
do it
through
without,
some things.
making yourself crazy.
Yeah, it's not I have some stuff that's not edited or anything like that, but I have one of those little Zoom cameras.
Yeah.
They take pretty good footage and stuff like that, but it still stuff needs to be edited. But I got like a couple of songs that I can send you,
Absolutely. That would be
coming
wonderful.
off of that
You
camera.
got about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Because this goes live November 2024. So
Okay, got it.
we're gonna put you on the cover of the magazine.
Uh-oh, cover.
Cover. Oh yeah, I think I told you we were gonna do that. So
Yeah.
so the TrueFire thing. I mean, obviously, do you have any idea how many titles you've got?
Mm, I probably have maybe like four or five maybe, but I'm due to do some other ones,
Oh, you got
because
more than that. You got a lot.
well, what it is like when they'll take, like two, two
They
or
divide it up.
yeah, and so it's like it's divided up in lessons. So when we do it, it takes like a couple of days to do it. So that's why they know that they're going to, divide it up into lessons, and the lessons are going to go out and go viral, like you said.
And you're teaching at the university.
Yeah,
Did you say Roosevelt University?
Roosevelt University in Chicago. Yeah.
What is that like?
It's a university like anything else, but
Yeah.
it's just we have like a jazz department.
How many days a week do you go in and do that? Are you full time or adjunct or what do you?
No, I'm neither. I'm an artist in resident,
Oh,
so
okay.
that means that I can go and do whatever I accept students, that I think that like I can actually teach.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so it allows me the freedom, because if you're being an artist in resident, they want me to be an artist. So that means that I have to
right.
continue all my duties as an artist.
Right.
because
Got
it
it.
makes the school look good. So
Do you
that's what it
know, do
was
you know
about.
the Old Town School in Chicago?
Yeah, yeah, it's been there forever.
Yeah, the guy that started that, one of the people that started it, and I started a school here in Atlanta.
Oh, you did
Yeah.
Atlanta for like Old Town thing?
Yeah, it's called the Frank Hamilton School. It's a folk music school.
Oh, okay.
We started a school about 10, 12 years ago. Yeah, I started that with Frank. And so I visited that school when we were when we were doing it, because Frank was one of the founders of that school.
Hmm.
We visited and we went up there and saw their scene and what was going on with them up there. Have you ever played there?
No, no, I've never I've
It's a
been there
it's a
before.
beautiful room. They got a great stage, great sound system, and all that kind of thing. It's a real
Yeah, the one here has got a really great room
well. That's what I'm
too, you
talking
know.
about. The one in Chicago. Have you ever played
Oh
there?
yeah, yeah. I haven't played there, but I've been there to, check out other
Check it
people.
out.
When
Yeah.
Earl Klug was here and we were hanging out there, they've had several people come and play. And but I think the room was wonderful for for like concerts and stuff
Oh,
because the sound in there is excellent.
yeah, it's really really great. So let's talk about your playing. Um,
Okay.
I was born with a guitar in my hands. No, you started playing at 12. We know that. Um, I mean, I really admire your time and execution and your your ability to think up stuff and just play it. I mean, like you've got some. I mean, you've got some really really nice repetition kind of things that you'll do, but they're done in a way like you'll take that motif and move it around a little bit, and but you do it with such power. Your time is so good. You do it with such power that it's like, man, that's just not the norm by any stretch.
Well, when I was coming up, I was fortunate enough to be around all those guys like Dizzy Gillespie and all those guys, and so
Yeah,
I used to interview them all of the time and ask them about how do I do this, and they would give me like, well, this actually started here. This is the history of this. So if you check this out, it'll lead you to this, and
yeah.
that'll lead you to this. They were connecting the dots for me, and they were teaching me how to connect the dots. And so um, Dizzy told me that everything is based on rhythm,
Oh
and
yeah.
then you put the notes to it. And
That
so if
dizzy.
yeah, exactly. So the more rhythm you know, the more variety is going to automatically happen in your playing. So you don't worry about the notes so much as you worry about the rhythm.
Man, I I I've been saying that, and I didn't know that when I started this magazine like 6 years ago. I,
Mm.
I I went to Georgia State University and was in their jazz school for a couple of years as a guitar. I started playing guitar like you when I was like 12, and played rock bands. I mean, all that. But
Hmm.
I didn't realize when I started in this school, I'm learning, all the stuff that they teach you and all.
Right.
So then I started the magazine and I started listening to a lot of players. I mean, more players than maybe I wanted to.
Because it was part of your job now.
Yeah, well, this is a labor of love for us,
Hmm.
it is. It's there's no Ferraris in the parking lot based on the income from the car today, and yeah, hell, I couldn't afford to put the gas in one of those things. Um, but anyway, but after a while, and I'm listening to everybody play, and everybody, I quote everybody's kind of doing a version of the same thing, kind of, sort of, but they're not. And there's this, and there's that, and there's this and that. And so I asked myself one day, I said, why is this guy great? And that guy's like, they're kind of playing the same stuff, but one of these guys, because I didn't know, I honestly
Hmm.
didn't know. And it dawned on me one day, I said, it's their time. The great players have great time.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
and that's the bottom line, because everybody knows, I mean, everybody, I mean, they just have great time, and that's why I really like to see people play live. I don't care what they do on record. I'm sorry, I don't. I want to see
Well, you
people
know,
live.
records can hide stuff.
Oh, well, not only can they hide shit, they do it all the time. I mean, that's the norm. But I want to see. That's why I love to see YouTube. For anybody out there that wants to be in the magazine, start publishing YouTube videos of you playing live. Not you in the basement, not you in the bedroom, not you, with a band. Unless you're a solo player. I mean, that's a whole different thing. But
Right.
you know, I I want to hear, or when I'm listening to the good players play or the great players play, they really and truly are having real conversations.
That's true. Yeah.
And like, you know, so you want to speak to that a little bit?
Well, music is a language,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the language that's universal because you can go into any country and not speak that language, but all those musicians can get together and play.
Yep.
And that alone lets you know that we're all speaking the same language. The music is a universal language. So if I go to Japan and I don't speak Japanese, we can still get on stage and play some songs together. Same thing in Germany, or any part of Europe. That's why music is a language. So if you start treating music as if it's a language, when you learn it, you're learning to speak a language.
Right.
And you learn to speak a language because you want to have a conversation with the people that you're playing with and then with the audience. So that's why we do what we do. So if you approach music as being a language, then you understand that scales are just the ABCs, they're not the words.
So said Henry Johnson on this 2024. Scales are not the language, they're the letters, not the words, the ABCs. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and so if whatever the case may be, um, it doesn't matter what genre it is. The elements of music are still the same thing. Harmony, melody, and then
Really.
rhythm.
So you,
Those three elements are what makes us react to music the way we do.
so you've done a lot of organ trio work.
God, yes.
Yeah. I mean, stating the obvious because who you played with. There's something about you guys that have played organ trio work that the time really stands out.
hmm
I mean, all the guys that I've talked to that have played a lot of organ trio. Let me turn this off. I'm sorry. Um, all the guys that play organ trio work, it just their time really really stands out. Do you have any idea why, or any thoughts about that?
I don't know. Because I've played with piano players, like all of my life as well. And I think that it's the person, it's not just the instrument, it's the person itself. If you're playing with Jimmy Smith, Jimmy Smith has excellent time. If you're
Right.
playing with Jack McDuff, Diamond Patterson, all those guys have, great time. But I think the difference with the organ players is they have to have a good time because they're actually the bass player too.
Right. I
And
got a
see, when
guy.
you're
I
playing
got
with a
a
piano player, you got a bass player, so now you got another division of time that's being played by another person. But when there's an organ player, he's playing both parts, so his time has to really be good and coordination
right.
because he's doing stuff with his left hand and his right hand, and they're actually going in opposite directions all of the time. So to me, it's like when I used to watch them do that at when we played something up tempo and they were just like cooking with the left hand and it was just doing its own thing. It was almost like he had a split brain. You
Yeah.
know?
It,
And so that used to always amaze me. But I think that that's probably the element that you're talking about. Their time had to be good.
you remind me of Pat Martino in this way. I was talking to Pat's drummer, and I'm sorry that I can't remember his name right now. I've actually interviewed him, but
Oh, you talking about Carmen?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, man, you got your work cut out for you, don't you? And he knew exactly what I was talking about because Pat was the drummer in that band, man. He was the timekeeper. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, yeah, you become so super aware of time,
right.
but you also become aware that in certain contexts, group contexts, time is elastic. This is
Oh
the
yeah.
part that people don't get when they start trying to practice with metronomes. Why are you practicing with a metronome?
I
It's mechanical. It
yeah,
doesn't, if you don't, you're going to spend 99% of your time playing with human beings. So if you're playing with a mechanical device, your time's going to be mechanical and stiff. And as human beings, time is fluctual, so it moves. And even though there is might be five guys on stage, they're all moving at the same time. It's
right.
because human time is a flexible time. So if it's no record of your favorite records, whether they be rock, R&B, jazz, whatever, you can put a metronome with them and it will never stay the same. Yet everything is still grooving right along.
I,
It's the reason why. It's because in mechanical time, nobody plays in mechanical time.
you know,
We're human beings.
there was a thing the other day about click tracks, and these people were defending click tracks, and I go, oh man,
Well,
I, I
well,
know,
you know you know where click tracks came from, right? It came because they was using the clicks to go with movie soundtracks.
right,
So to make sure that they were in sync with the scene.
right.
We didn't, your favorite records, we didn't, like we didn't use click tracks. Try
Hey,
to put a click track with Herbie Hancock's head on the record. They'll never make it.
yeah,
There was no click. We wasn't using click tracks that. Click
let a
tracks
breeze.
were used to sync the scenes together with movie
Right,
soundtracks. That's what they were used
right.
for.
Time
They
code.
then you had like some of the fusion guys, I think they also came in and start trying to use click tracks and things like that. But what that does is make the music sound mechanical and it doesn't feel good.
It loses its life. You know,
It actually does.
loses its life. But you know, it's so much fun to hear yourself play and to listen to Pat. You know, watch Pat play, and a lot, they're not the only guys, but because all the good players have got a great time, but you're just like, you know, you're just like so on top of the beat. I don't mean on top of it like in front or behind or like that. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like you're so driving that. There's no lack of confidence when you decide,
Well, I'm just riding it,
yeah,
and that's really where it's coming from for me. It's like I need the time to be like bam, and if you're not going to be there, then I'm gonna have to do this and get you there.
Flintstones. Well, yeah, with your
Yeah.
band, you didn't need to do that, but Flintstones is such a good example of what I'm talking about. I,
Hmm.
I highly recommend everybody go to YouTube and look up Henry Johnson playing the Flintstones. It's live. It's a live track, and it to me it's just spectacular. I mean, it's just. I mean, you're playing, and the it's the people talk about play a phrase, let it breathe, play a phrase, let it breathe, play a phrase, let it breathe. You hear a lot of that, and you do that obviously, but there was a couple of phrases in there that you had it going so strong. It's like baby don't stop. I mean, it was like you had it going so strong, and I go, God bless America. I mean, that is so powerful. I'm going, geez, woo, I am not worthy. I was going nuts. I was going, that's that is it's just phenomenal. And then when I heard your drummer, you know, doing his thing with you, it's hard to hear the bass in that track, but when I heard the drummer doing what he was doing with you, and then you were doing the conversation that you guys were having that I could hear because I couldn't hear the bass all that well what I was listening to.
Hmm.
You could tell there was bass there, but I couldn't quite pick up.
Hmm.
And I'm going, holy bajoli, it's like that's like, mm, great, great, great stuff. Um, so what do you want to talk about? We've got a few more minutes here, and we can get into anything you care to talk about.
Well, let's see that there's some, where do we
I know.
start?
I
It's
know.
like,
I mean, we could dive off into all kinds of things, but I don't want to, get into something that you go, ah, gee, I wish somebody would have asked me about that.
well,
Guitar.
usually when I'm doing an interview or something like that, they depending on the interviewer, um, they'll have like a little sketch of what they
There's
want to
nothing
point
usual.
to, want to touch on, but like this is a freer.
Oh yeah, there's nothing
Um,
usual about anything that I do. It's
mhm.
all, it's all
Well, it's your own style,
we're having a
like
drink.
playing.
We're having a beer.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way I want it to be. That's the style that we're doing. You got any projects coming up?
Just stuff that I was telling you about I'm working on now. Now you gave me a new one to, go and start getting these videos. And
All right. I do have one more thing that I want to touch on because I think that your tone is exemplary. I think your tone is just phenomenal. And I know you're playing that heritage guitar. And
mhm.
there's a beautiful video of by the way, this is I'm putting this parenthetically of you and David Becker playing in the Heritage booth at NAMM.
Oh yeah, damn, yeah,
And
yeah,
uh
yeah.
and David's on the cover actually this month.
Oh, okay.
And he's playing lines that people aren't used to hearing from him. He's playing true bebop lines with you playing, and you're both heritage guys. Now you weren't playing your guitar; you were playing one that was there, like on display, I guess. But
Yeah, I think when I think when David was there, my model wasn't out yet. I
yeah,
think it was being
but
worked on.
but the sound that you're getting out of that guitar, and with your fingers and your sensibilities and all that, I mean, it's like quintessential. It's like, I mean, that is it. I mean, that's the tone, man. That's a great sound. Um,
Yeah, I think it's I like I don't really. I think everybody, it's like a piano,
right.
it's whatever is coming out of me, I guess.
Well, it's definitely it's not the guitar, it's you
Hmm.
with that, and that's a tool, but it's obviously it's you. But have you always been aware of tone, or I mean, when you developed your tone, did you have I want to sound like that guy, or was it more like I'm just playing, this is how I sound, it just came out of you, or was there any?
No, I I was when I would playing and practicing mostly without an amp. Because if the guitar didn't sound good, if I
Yeah.
amplified it, it still was going to be a guitar that didn't sound good, just a little louder.
I rarely plug anything in.
Yeah, and the reason why is because the sound of the guitar with you playing it is just you and the guitar.
Yeah,
And so whatever's coming out of it, tone wise or everything, like that's going to be coming from your hands.
yeah,
So that's really where my tone developed. And then, in the 70s, I was doing recording sessions, like commercials and things like that. So a producer will come in and says, "Oh, we're doing a commercial for Heineken beer or whatever." And, this is the kind of sound that I'm looking for. So I wouldn't have like a arch top. I'd have to come in with like a Telecaster or 335. So they were looking for specific things. And
right,
so now you got to know how to get that too.
right, yeah.
Uh, so I think you study your guitar and what it's capable of and what it can give you.
Mhm.
Like a Strat is never going to sound like a Telly. A Telly's never going to sound like a Les Paul. A Les Paul is never going to sound like like a 335. Each one of them has got different characteristics because of the way that the guitar is built.
Right.
And so if you recognize that, I'm saying, okay, well, how do I get me out of this instrument?
Oh man, Henry, that's golden. I love it. How do I get me out of this instrument? Man, you've given me a whole bunch of really cool things to think about. Great nuggets, man.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about that. How can I maintain my own identity no matter what guitar I'm playing. And so that's how I started approaching it, just like that. You know, if I play on that guitar without it being amplified, I know where I am. I know I can hear me.
Yeah.
Then when I stick it in an amp, it's still me. Even though it's me playing a Strat, and I might be playing something that sounds like Beat It behind this beer commercial, you'll still know it's me because I put something of me in there that no other players don't have. So it's
I,
different.
there's a video of you playing with Ramsey where you're playing like a 2-chord vamp before he
Mm-hmm.
comes on stage, and man, you're just pushing that rhythm, and your drummer is just loving it. You know, it's a really great picture, and it showed me a side of you that I hadn't seen in any of the other videos. It was
Mm-hmm.
more like it was almost like a R&B meets jazz meets pop kind of thing, you know?
It is, yes, because I came up, that's part of my background.
Hmm.
Okay. When I started out playing, my favorite player was Steve Cropper. And then I heard Wes Montgomery, but Steve Cropper and B.B. King, Muddy Waters, those are the guys that I first heard, playing. And then there's gospel guitar players too. And so then I saw Wes Montgomery on television. I said, what is that? You know, and that's what flipped everything. That flipped off a switch. Then I found Kenny Burrell, and then I found all those guys, but each one of them. But in the meantime, what I started with still there. The spark of, like all of the
Yeah.
R&B and that's still there. So I'm just layering on top of it my experiences of whatever I go through. That's still at the core of the foundation of everything. And if you are a rock player or you're a blues player, how did you learn to play what you do?
Right.
Whatever that process is, that's your process of your way of processing information.
Right.
So if you choose to start learning how to play jazz, why would you change how you learn? Everybody don't learn the same way. So when you start throwing scales at people, they were saying like, oh, why are you throwing the ABCs at me? I didn't learn how to play, like Stairway to Heaven by learning those scales. But anytime you play a rock tune or anything, Santana, nobody ever asked you anything about any scales.
You know,
That's just not real life.
I have a message for a whole lot of Facebook people. Listen to this over and over and over and over again. People will come on all the time, and on Facebook, and they will say, "Well, I'm a rock player. I'm gonna say, how do I learn to play jazz?" And 90% of the advice is, well, get this book and that book, learn these scales, get the real book. And I if I say what I'm really thinking, then they're all gonna hate me, so I don't.
Well,
But
don't say what you're really thinking, but tell me what the end result of it is.
who knows? I mean, who knows what that guy does? I mean, that guy will probably just get frustrated. What I always tell him, I said, start listening to your favorite players and try to emulate it.
Well,
Not
see,
not
but
necessarily.
Bob, that's common sense
Yeah, not
because
even.
that's how you learn how to
Yeah,
play.
I mean,
And
don't
so why
even.
would you change that?
Yeah,
If you want to learn how to play jazz, then start listening to jazz.
listen
Find
to
your
Wes.
favorite players in jazz
Yeah,
and start emulating them. But
start
do the
emulating.
same thing.
Yeah,
If you are a good player right now, obviously you did some things to
right,
get you there.
right.
And whatever that learning process is that you did,
Yeah.
you have to keep that process. You're just changing the information you're learning, but that's your own way of processing information. You're going to get there faster by doing what you already know how to do.
You are teaching in college, aren't you? Professor? Ab- Absolutely, and it's just, I mean that's the absolute truth. So everybody on Facebook, if or whoever's watching this, if you want to learn how, go to TrueFire and watch Henry's lessons because he'll show you he'll show you how. But find the music you like and try to emulate it. Not you don't even have to transcribe it. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. But a lot of people can't write. They don't know how to
Well,
write.
see, here's the other thing too, Bob. There's two forms of transcribing.
Right.
The first element of transcribing is you transcribe by playing along with the record until you can play what's on the record.
My
You don't
favorite,
have to write it down.
my favorite
That's
part.
just another form of transcribing is to
Right.
keep it and notate it.
Right.
But everybody who transcribes doesn't notate it down.
Right.
Once you learn that solo, now you can take it apart and say, oh, he's playing this on this chord.
Yeah.
This is what I could use. Every time I had this chord, I can play this. Now, if you add some rhythm to it, it's going to change. Even though the notes are exactly the same, the duration of the notes are going to change and it's going to turn into something else.
Oh,
So, in other words, guitar players they're not using all of them are not using the guitar to its fullest extent. The guitar is a visual instrument. We have shapes that we use. All of the chords that we play are in every song. So 2-5-1 progressions are in every song in every genre. So if you can figure out like how to just play some things, learn how to improvise on those, that's going to go over to any genre that you want to learn.
right.
So if you're playing a blues groove and if it's a minor groove and you're just playing pentatonic and it's just like, oh, it's going to be A minor to D7, that's it. You just go vamp on that. Okay, well, how do I change some more colors? Okay, so I can add some more colors just by playing the same pentatonic scale, starting on the fifth.
Right.
Now I'm going to actually have some mood colors inside of that A minor because now I'm playing the E minor pentatonic.
Right.
That's going to give me another color.
Right.
Or I can go up a whole step and play B minor pentatonic over the top of the A.
Yep.
And now I'm going to have a totally new color. That's going to give me the color of the D. Those are just two things that you can do like right now that will totally give you some new stuff to play on, whether you're playing rock, R&B, jazz, or blues.
I want everybody to listen to what Henry just said. Put that on your tape loop and listen over and over and over and over again. That is it, man. That is it. That's law. That's the two great commandments, you know. That is it. That is absolutely it. Well, Henry, this has been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, we have to do it again
We will.
sometimes.
We
Next
will.
time I'm going to interview you and you'll be on the cover.
Oh no, 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 no. No, 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 no.
What kind of acoustic guitar was that you pulled
Well,
up there? That looks.
this is a Burrell. It's actually a custom guitar that
Oh, wow.
Ryan Thorell made for me. It these are the sound holes.
Uh-huh.
You can plug them up. I notice that you've got. Can you see what I'm doing? No.
Yeah, yeah.
These are the sound holes, so I can take these out of there. You know,
Right, and keep it from
makes it
feeding
more
back.
acoustic. And this is myrtle wood, and this is the most difficult guitar in the world to play. It it you really have to have your chops totally together. It's not forgiving at all to get the sound out of it. But when you massage it just right, it's the sweetest thing in the whole wide world. But I'll show you something else.
Is the string real close on there or they're real high?
It's pretty close. That's because that's me though. I I've gotten wimpy in my old age.
I don't think that's wimpy, Bob. It's like
No,
all of my guitars are close
yeah, this is a.
because you don't want an instrument you got to fight.
You sound like BB King now.
Well, that's just like if you ever
Yeah,
touch Kenny
I
Burrell's guitar, his strings are sitting right on the
I
frets
that's the way I
almost.
like it. This is another one he made for me. This is a 17-inch. This would be like a Wes, like single
Yeah,
pickup guitar. It's all hand carved out of European woods. It's
that looks nice.
but it is. It's like a freaking piano. I mean, it's really great. And then, but of course, the guitar I sit and play all the time is a Telly.
Oh,
So
is it? That's right. Yeah.
there's a Telly, a Strat, these two, an acoustic, and my 335, which is actually an I-35 Collings, is in the other room. And
Uh-huh.
but anyway, yeah, they're just Ryan Thorell in Utah made these.
Utah. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
he.
a, it seems to be a lot of guitar makers around these days, man.
Well, there are, and there's a lot of really talented people compared to what there used to be. I mean, you never saw it. Now, what instrument is that?
This is a
Ibanez.
loss. This is a lawsuit
Oh my
guitar.
God, a lawsuit L5.
Yes.
Perfect. Yep.
It's good.
Hey man, this has been great. I really enjoyed the conversation. I love your playing, as you know, and the whole vibe is, very, very cool. And
Well, let's just stay in touch, man, because it's like I'll probably hit you back up once I
I,
started putting
I
some
got to get in touch
video
with you
together.
anyway. Just FYI, people, subscribe to the magazine. If you haven't heard me say that, like, share, follow, and all that. You couldn't afford to do what we're doing on a commercial level. This is absolutely a labor of love. You couldn't buy the people to do it. What you can't. There's no business model that supports this. This is this is.
No, I mean, if you were trying to get rich, you wouldn't be doing
We've been
anything
doing
to
it,
do
and we've been
with
at it
guitar
now.
players.
We're in our 6th year of doing this, and I think we've made a difference in the jazz community, and we're going to keep doing it. And and we you know just because guys, people need to get more publicity and get well known and get their stories out there, and people love it. I mean, the diehard fans of jazz and jazz guitar love this stuff. We see it in our in our stuff. We don't have a jillion people because it's a small
Hmm.
group. I like to say we're a big fish in a puddle. Um, you know, but 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 the people that we do have are like really, really into it, like we are, and we appreciate
Hmm.
that. Well,
Well, I'll tell you, the world needs more of you. That's for
oh,
sure.
well, thank you, and you as well. So, Bob Baker with Henry Johnson, jazz guitar today. We appreciate you, Henry. We really do. We do appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. I
You're a hell of,
appreciate you
you're
too.
you're a hell of an artist, and you're inspiring.
Thank
Everybody,
you, man.
take care, everybody. Bye bye
All
now.
right, take
Bye,
care.
Henry.
Bye.